Once again, we're back at the Troy Traffic Jam. My good friend Mark Lieberman, of course, and Dave Marchione from the Detroit Historical Society, Detroit Historical Museum.
Well, technically I work for the Detroit Historical Society, which is a group that manages the museum.
There you go. Okay, so I got I got it right.
You were right. Let's just call it that you're right.
Yeah, and I love the collection that you guys have got. I've been in the facility that's world famous where you got all the cars in bubbles, suspended animation. But one of the amazing cars you guys have gotten, and I actually went out there years ago to look at this car, but it's outdoors today, which is unusual, is the Chrysler Turbine car.
Yeah, we were actually gifted the car in 1966. As you know, Chrysler put out a call to museums, and only 6 museums took cars. We were originally one that took it, and the funny part of that is I have the blueprint for the display they were going to build for us, and that's the only reason we took the car was because they were going to build us a display to go in the museum, which never happened. So.
Yeah, that things like that happen. But luckily, 9 of the cars survived. There were 55 that got built. There's a whole story behind it, but simply put, Chrysler was experimenting with putting turbine engines, jet engines, into cars starting in about 1953, 54, all the way into the 70s and 80s. But this is the most famous one. This is the bronze car. Let's talk a little bit about this particular car.
Well, as we know, these are one of the 55 that was produced. It was part of the loan program. That's all we really know about it. The car shows 42,000 miles. But if you look at it, some of the more interesting pieces, it's still got the original Turbine tires on it. So if you look at the sidewalls of these tires, it's finned like the Turbine car. They carry that theme throughout the whole vehicle. It's got it's original paint, so it's still got the little bit of the metallic in it, and in the sun you can see that Turbine bronze really pops. It's one of my favorite colors that Chrysler ever did, and you could actually get it in 66 on the C-bodies.
To make sure these styling cues are noticed, you'll notice, for instance, there are cooling fins around the headlights, because of course you need those. But It's actually more of just a callback to the turbine engine that's underneath the hood.
Steve, and it carries through to the interior. Take a look at that center console.
And also the thing that holds the rear view mirror to the windshield. And if we can get around here through the window, we can point out that we got a matching interior, beautiful color. You'll notice there's this center console from front to back, which is the world's most advanced ashtray. A lot of people think that, that must be like where the hot gases shoot out the back like it's the Batmobile or something. No, that's just an extremely artistic rendering of the center console and an ashtray. And if you get a chance to see the thing that holds the mirror to the windshield, the rearview mirror, you'll see it has cooling fins on it too, because of course it does.
Well, why wouldn't it? Now, think about this for a second. Here in 1963, they decided to go with this alternative fuel, alternative power vehicle and put 55 of these in the hands of the general public. We're going to experiment out there with the public. Now, they would never do such a thing today, but it's amazing what a success it was and how many people actually ended up driving these cars.
And that fleet of 55 cars, they say they ran them about 1 million miles relatively trouble-free. And so the fact that you can give this car to the average American, think of that today. Would Chrysler, Ford, or GM ever actually have someone sign a one-page contract? Here, take this experimental car for a couple months and just bring it back when you're done with it.
It's crazy because when we got this car, I have the original Hartford insurance card that has Chrysler's name on it. So Chrysler insured them. So if you can imagine giving a prototype to a civilian with Chrysler's insurance on it, saying, if something happens to you, here's the number you call and tell them you have our insurance. I mean, that just doesn't happen nowadays. So, it's one of those, it's an anomaly. I'd love to see, when we have some of the feedback from people that had the cars. So it's interesting to read. The biggest step that we found was when you start them, and you know this, you can't touch the accelerator. You think about 1963, the first thing you do when you get into a carbureted car is you kick it a couple times to get fuel up to the bowl. If you hit the gas on this before the igniter comes on, it floods it and it shuts everything down.
Yeah, and actually it's one of my favorite points on this car is there's a device underneath the hood, and it's a rather innocuous looking black box. And this right here is the timer reset, or the shame box. Because if you tried starting it and you flooded it, the only way to get the car to start was to come out here, open that box, flip a switch, close that box, and get back in the car. You would do it one time and realize, I don't want to do that again. It's a waste of my time.
Absolutely. One more thing I'd like to mention about this car that is encompassing of all 55 of these very specially built Turbine Chryslers is there somebody that wrote a book about this car. Somebody that was compelled to say, I want the public to know more about this. Steve, tell us about your book.
Oh, I wrote a book. That's right. I actually wrote a book about these cars, and it was a lot of fun to do because when I started working on the car, on the book in the early 2000s, a lot of the engineers and designers who designed these cars were still around, and I interviewed quite a few of them. But this is amazing that you can actually take a jet engine, in essence, jam it in a car, attach an automotive transmission to it, and drive down the road with it. But it does have some unusual features because of that. For instance, this big box right here is the air intake. There's a gigantic air cleaner in here. Air comes in this way and winds up going through there. Likewise, these two side covers, those aluminum side covers, are covering these things called regenerators. And the regenerators recuperate hot air from the exhaust gases to make the engine more efficient in an attempt to get slightly better gas mileage out of it.
Yeah, and what I heard, and I don't know if you heard the same, was that it was dependent on fuel. If you got a better fuel, they got better mileage.
Yep.
It's like a deuce and a half. It'll run on just about anything, but it's how far it's going to take you on what fuel you put in it that it goes.
Right, and one thing I like to ask people if they're walking around the car and I want to try to ask them a trick question, I go, what's that pump for? Do you know?
I do. It's vacuum for the brakes.
Yes, and because it's a turbine engine, it doesn't create engine vacuum like a typical piston engine, internal combustion engine. So it's got to have power for the brakes, so it actually has, in essence, air brakes. It's air over oil, but that's just another one of the oddities of this car.
It is, and there are all kinds of little nuances, but aside from the nuances, there's a lot of stock features. Braking system. This was the first coil spring suspension. Remember, they had torsion bar suspension before. So the carryover from their production vehicles into this, there are a lot of similarities.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You take a jet engine and you put it inside a car and you go, boy, that's going to get hot. And yet, they've got the insulation up here because it wasn't too hot. And they had figured all this stuff up, but they spent so much time, thousands and thousands of man hours, millions of dollars on the project. Eventually it wound down and they didn't get into production. And there's a whole story behind that. In fact, books could be written on it, probably have been. But the real point is that we have 9 of the survivors, and this is one of them. And it's absolutely wonderful that you guys have brought this out to the show.
Yeah, we were really excited. We're always happy to participate with the Troy Historic Village folks. They asked us to bring the car out. It's always interesting to have them out. It's great when we have them at our museum, but showing cars outdoors and talking to people on this level is a whole other thing. So
yeah. So right now I'm going to ask Mark to take you around back by the trunk so I can try to pry off this Chrysler Corporation Turbine car badge. I haven't got one of those.
Well, I don't know where you live, but I know where Mark lives. So
okay, there you go.
Jump if you feel froggish, as they say.
Okay. Well, Dave Marchione from the Detroit Historical Museum, thank you very much for showing us this wonderful car. Thanks for bringing it out. It's an absolute treat. For Mark Lieberman, I'm Steve Leto. We are at the Troy Traffic Jam at the Columbia Center. And again, if you're not here this year, you missed out a lot of cool stuff. But there's always cool stuff here, so be sure to check this out.